Alright boys, I think it's safe to say that we are back in full swing for the Bleach anime. I mean, with the fight between Yuha and Yamamoto resolving in yesterday's episode, I am now officially on board. Any reservations I had about the Bleach anime have been completely resolved. The additional scenes that they are actually adding into the anime are actually really good. They're very healthy for fleshing out certain little bits of backstory that we didn't get, and some things that are going to be important in the later parts of this video when actually discussing how strong Yamamoto is. So let me just say that I'm officially looking forward to like the Zero Division showing up. I'm looking forward to anything extra we get for the boy Aizen, Ichigo's training, Uryu's training, bro, like just everything. Just dump it on me. I'm so glad that we get so much more additional context. But if you're not able to tell by the title of this video and me kind of gushing over the Bleach anime, we're doing another Bleach power scaling video. It's been quite a while since we've just done a dedicated one of these. But they kept like all of the good stuff from the Bankai Yamamoto versus Yuha fight when it comes to power scaling, and then added additional things to actually save Yamamoto, because Yamamoto in the manga actually is a little bit weaker than he is now in the anime. They've actually changed some of the dialogue around just a little bit that actually preserves how strong Yamamoto is. So we're going to talk about how strong he is in verse, and if you want to pit him up against, your other anime verses, maybe you want to throw him in Naruto or One Piece or Dragon Ball even. I'm going to go ahead and give you the guy's attack potency, basically saying how strong the guy is, how fast he is, and some just general good abilities that Yamamoto has. But before we actually begin, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel, because anytime something hype happens with Bleach, you best believe I'm going to be right there to go ahead and cover that. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into this video, starting off with how strong he is in his own verse, or the inverse scaling. So inverse, I mean, if you've watched the original Bleach anime, you already know that Yamamoto is quite powerful, pretty much being like the strongest Shinigami that's not exactly Bankai Ichigo or Ascended Aizen, as even Aizen himself was a bit fearful about fighting Yamamoto and didn't want to fight him without any proper precautions. I mean, this is even further backed up by the fact that Yamamoto pretty much almost got really close to figuring out how Kyoka Suigetsu work. He was theorizing that if he held on to Aizen, he wouldn't be able to lose him, and was still like tracking his spiritual pressure by allowing himself to get stabbed to kind of find out where Aizen was. Although in reality, Gin is the one that ultimately figured it out by having Aizen reveal it to him himself, where it was actually that you need to be holding the blade of Kyoka Suigetsu. But Yamamoto, while not figuring it out directly, still kind of found a workaround for it, and showed that he was not only rightfully feared for how strong he was, but how smart he was when it came to battle, even if it was kind of a headstrong way of finding out how to counter the illusionary abilities. But the Bleach anime is actually now backing this up. For one, in the original manga, Yuha kind of pesters and kind of insinuates that maybe Yamamoto got tired by fighting one of his goons, the fake Yuha that Yamamoto expended his Bankai on, and kind of taunts him, saying that like, oh, you're not as strong as you used to be. Did that make you tired? Do you no longer have any energy? In the anime, Yuha actually blatantly says, now that you've exhausted yourself fighting my false self, I will deal with you, as if to imply that Yuha could not just straight up come up and one-shot Yamamoto in a normal one-on-one fight, meaning that Yamamoto actually preserves himself as one of the strongest Shinigami in the verse. See, if you're an anime-only watcher, we're eventually going to get this guy named Ichibei. I won't spoil exactly who he is, but he is said to be the strongest and like the oldest of the Shinigami. And it was kind of like, oh, he can smack around Yuha, so he would just like one-shot Yamamoto because Yamamoto got one-shot by Yuha. But now we actually have confirmation that Yuha purposefully exhausted Yamamoto because it's not certain if he would actually beat him in a straight-up head-up fight. This is also further backed up by the fact that we actually get to see the past battle between Yamamoto and Yuha, and to call it a bloodbath would be to severely downplay how bad Yuha did in the past. If you look at Yuha before he is slain by Yamamoto in the past, Yuha is like bloodied and broken, can barely walk. Yamamoto doesn't have a scratch on him. He literally just like took the belt off and then just went to town on Yuha. So rightfully so, Yuha's like, I don't think I could beat that guy in a straight up fight because last time he just beat the dog out of me. Like, it wasn't even close. And that's also probably why he decided to immediately take Yamamoto's Bankai, because even if Yamamoto is exhausted, the power of his Bankai basically just took Yuha to Pound Town in the past. And again, we still get the confirming statement about Yamamoto's Bankai where Yuha says that he is the only one that can contain Yamamoto's power, which is really strong because, again, not going to spoil too much for anime-only watchers, but we're going to get some very, very powerful Quincy later on in the arc towards the tail end of the series. And for Yuha to claim that he's the only one that can actually contain Yamamoto's power also means that he will scale above those particularly strong Quincy's that'll come in the future. And again, it also almost reopens the debate of Ichibei versus Yamamoto, which I really like, because there's not even a prime, like, younger Yamamoto anymore, because in the anime, he just straight up says, I didn't even use the full extent of my Bankai's power, like, not the techniques, like, I just straight up didn't fight you at full power, and I still just beat the dog out of you. Now I'm going to fight you with my full power. Meaning that now we also know that current Yamamoto confirmed is stronger than he was in the past, which was always kind of a thing, but there was a few people that held on to the idea that maybe there's like this prime Yamamoto we never saw, and it's like, no, Yamamoto is just more of a beast now than he ever was in the past. And the reason it reopens the debate between Yamamoto and Ichibei is that based on what we know how Ichibei does against Yuha in the current manga, and based on how good we know that Yamamoto is against Yuha in the past, and knowing that he's now stronger, you could kind of reopen that debate. Although, right now, it would be like anime Yamamoto versus manga Ichibei, because surely they're going to do something with Ichibei in the actual anime. I'm hoping they actually have Yuha use Yamamoto's Bankai, because spoiler alert, he never did that in the manga. Maybe that's how they'll go ahead and try to confirm that Ichibei maybe is stronger than Yamamoto, or maybe they'll actually leave it ambiguous. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments down below on that one, on, current anime Yamamoto versus manga Ichibei. But yeah, this guy is pretty much going to age really well in the Bleach anime. He's pretty much, I'm expecting, going to end in like the top 5 of the verse. Just because Yuha himself, even in base, because of course this is a shonen anime, spoiler alert, he's going to get other forms as the series progresses, such as being able to use his own script, which is also why the Ichibei fight is a little bit interesting. Depends on if they're going to make that more of just an ability thing, or if unlocking his script unlocks his quote-unquote actual full power. That'll be interesting to see how they actually decide to go in that direction. But even still, base Yuha is still like immensely powerful. He's a very, very strong character, and it's just going to be very interesting to see how well he scales as the verse goes on. And I'm kind of banking on him ending up in the top 5, but that's how well he scales within his own verse. How about if we wanted to pit him up against, like, say, some Naruto characters or some Dragon Ball characters? Well, we need to know how strong Yamamoto is, we need to know how fast he is, and some of the various abilities that he would be able to employ. Well, for one, they left in all of the really good statements about Yamamoto being able to destroy the Soul Society, and like, not just the Serite, not burn it down, destroy the Soul Society, when he's merely just existing in the first stage of his Bankai. Again, remember when, like, Unohana says, you better end this fight quickly before you destroy the Soul Society, and even when Yamamoto says it, he's literally not doing anything. He's merely just existing and threatening the existence of the entirety of the Soul Society itself. Now, that begs into question, how large is the Soul Society? Well, at the bare minimum, we know it is a parallel realm to Earth, as we see in one of the guidebooks. Or I guess it'd be more accurate to say that it's a parallel to the world of the living and at least contains Earth, but we also know that both realms contain a sun because we can see it during the daytime. We also know that both realms contain numerous stars, as Kaname and his friend verbatim say, look at the dozens of stars up in the night sky. And from the actual Bleach Memories of Nobody movie, we know that smaller realms are able to contain an infinite amount of souls, and thus, if the Soul Society is a larger realm than one of these smaller Valley of Scream dimensions, then it should also be able to hold the capacity for an at least infinite amount of souls, making it needing to be at least infinite in size, i.e. this would scale to an infinite third-dimensional space, or he would just have infinite third-dimensional power. But if you want to get even more wacky, and if you want to say that Yamamoto is going to destroy the construct that holds that infinity, because in order to hold an infinite third-dimensional mass, you would need a fourth-dimensional construct to hold it, as a fourth-dimensional construct would be more than infinitely larger than an infinite 3D space. And so if you want to get really wacky, you could say that Yamamoto is going to threaten to destroy that actual construct, meaning the actual universal structure itself, and you could say that he's like universal plus or 4D. Yeah, all that from just him saying that he was going to destroy the Soul Society. And before somebody says, well, actually he said he's going to burn it down, I would like to cite where Hashfald says that the flames are not literal flames, it's just his spiritual pressure expunging off of his body, taking the appearance of flames. So he's not literally burning it down because there's not any actual quote-unquote flames there. That is his spiritual pressure taking the appearance of flame. And how about speed? Well, actually, that is quite a long topic that I have other videos on the channel that can actually break that down for you. I have like numerous videos on Bleach's speed that I would encourage you to go check out because it's quite a long topic and there's a lot of calculations that actually go into it. And they'll go into more detail that I could right here, while also saving time for the video because I don't want to make this video like 25 minutes long. However, what about different abilities that Yamamoto possesses? Well, for one, he is an astral being that also possesses a soul, so basically 2 levels of soul hacks. One, he's already a ghost, so if you don't possess the ability to interact with ghosts or astral beings or the ability to see them, he's going to be invisible and intangible to his opponent. And then if his opponent has some ability to interact with souls, and let's say they have the ability to steal souls, they actually wouldn't be able to just like suck up Yamamoto as a ghost like he's a ghostbuster or something, because they actually have souls within themselves, right? With the Quincy's Bankai stealing devices, they're able to steal the Bankai from within the Soul Reaper, but that Bankai is just like their Zanpakuto at their full power, and their Zanpakuto is just a manifestation of their own soul, i.e. they can kind of like steal a part of their soul within the soul of the Shinigami, if that makes sense. Speaking of being able to manipulate souls, the Zanpakuto inherently is able to interact and destroy or cleanse the soul of their target. If they were a good soul, their soul is cleansed and BFR'd to the Soul Society. If it was a bad soul in life, it is destroyed and sent over to hell, where you can go deal with the Kushinada and all of those dudes in there where you'll never escape, basically. But on top of that, his Zanpakuto actually has unique abilities, aside from the fact that he's able to condense the power of his Shikai all the way down into one blade and give it this explosive power that I'm glad they showed off in the anime, because in the manga they just had him like cut Yuha's cloak, and he was like, oh my goodness, it's the tip of the blade. Meanwhile, in the anime, he like touches something and it blows up like the entire city block, to actually kind of give a little bit more weight to how strong this guy is. They also confirm that the sun armor that he has is not 15 million degrees Fahrenheit, it is 15 million degrees Celsius. Which is kind of a big deal because that took it from being the heat of the surface of the sun to being the heat of the core of the sun. Meaning to even just exist around Yamamoto, you need absolutely insane heat resistance. Even the false Yuha himself had to fully expand his blute to even exist around this guy. Keep in mind that things like extreme heat and extreme cold are some types of hacks as well. And so you could take this extreme heat as an actual hack that Yamamoto has under his repertoire. We also know that Yamamoto is basically a master of Keto, being able to use high-level Keto spells in his fight against Aizen, which is actually where he lost his arm if you're just picking up Bleach in the second season and you didn't watch the first season, which if you haven't, what are you doing? Go back and watch it. But if you assume that because he can use these high-level Ketos that he has access to other ones, there is a basic Keto called High-In that actually erases the existence of whatever it comes into contact with, and hey, would you look at that, it's also a flame. Isn't that just quite fitting? Although that's mainly all the main stuff that Yamamoto is able to do. The stuff that's probably going to come up in a lot of your fights. The dude is really strong, he's very fast, he's hard to hit because of the sun armor, and he's going to be blowing up everything within like a universal radius, basically. Also, if there's like some weird age thing that you're trying to go with, he's a Shinigami that's been alive for like 1,000 years, so he can live for an insanely long time. As we even see people like Ichibei that are like just even older than him and they still look like they're absolutely fine. And it's almost like implied that Shinigami can control how they look as they age, because Unohana is just as old as Yamamoto, but she obviously doesn't look as old as Yamamoto. So I guess he just went for the old grandpa look because it looks sage and wisely or something along those lines. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the long and short of how strong Yamamoto is in the Bleach anime. If you felt that I missed out on anything, go ahead and drop that in the comments down below. Maybe I forgot about some random Keto that you're like, well, actually, this keto, when you cast it, it blows up the DC multiverse for some reason because of some weird crossover in Japan. Go ahead and drop that if I forgot about some random obscene, just something like that. Although I imagine that I was able to cover the basic gist of things here. But again, I'm looking forward to the next big video that I'm going to be making. Spoiler alert, if you're an anime watcher, it's probably going to be on Full Bring Ichigo. And I know longtime viewers of the channel are going to absolutely love that because, you could say that Full Bring Ichigo has a little bit of notoriety here on the channel. Good notoriety, but for some people that are not fans of my channel, they don't exactly like the boy Full Bring Ichigo. But we'll talk about that next week probably. Assuming they actually drop the entirety of what Full Bring Ichigo is supposed to do next episode, things might be getting a little nutty. But worst case scenario, 2 weeks from now, Full Bring Ichigo. Best case scenario, it's next week. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.